Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
Richard Nixon.
Well, I'm not a crook.
Ronald Reagan.
Tear down this wall.
George W. Bush.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you.
And Donald Trump.
And a friend of mine for a long time, he only likes politics. If you ask him about how are the Yankees doing, he has no interest. If you ask him almost anything, he likes politics, and he's a professional at the highest level. Roger Stone.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone. This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and this is the Roger Stone Show on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. A lot of news today as President Joe Biden, as I predicted almost 3 years ago, announced that he will not run for re-election. As I said earlier in the show, his brother Jim Biden began telling key Democrats as early as Friday that an announcement would come this weekend. That was evidently delayed by the fact that we have a state visit from Bibi Netanyahu, but that is now a done deal. President Biden releasing a letter in which he says he will not endorse Vice President Kamala Harris, but then minutes later endorsing her. I would note that Barack Obama, a man our next guest knows well, while he did put out a statement praising Biden for stepping down, he pointedly did not endorse Kamala Harris. We're going to ask former Democrat governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, how to read those tea leaves. Governor Blagojevich, thank you for joining us today on the Roger Stone Show.
Hi, Roger. Nice to talk to you again. I miss you. It was good spending some time with you in Milwaukee.
It was amazing, the warm reception you got from so many Republicans. Just to review a piece of history, Governor Blagojevich was one of the earliest victims of the criminalization of our justice system. He was falsely accused of trying to sell or somehow benefit from the appointment of a senator to the seat vacated by Barack Obama when he went to the White House, leaving an Illinois seat open. Prosecutors in his case refused to play the tape in which Blagojevich allegedly made this offer. They would refuse to play the tape, and incredibly, a corrupt federal judge upheld that. I thought, Governor, you had one of the most extraordinary defenses. Was really simple. Play the tape. Play by your actual words. So I think that, I feel like getting T-shirts made that say, Rod Blagojevich did nothing wrong, because I don't think you did do anything wrong. I think you were a political victim, and you were most likely, I think, charged because you refused to take orders from Barack Obama and would not appoint his former chief of staff to a vacant Senate seat.
Well, thank you for saying that, Roger. The whole thing started. I spent 8 years in prison on something that Obama started. It was election night, November of 2008. Backstage, we're all there at Grant Park. It was magical. And Obama sent an emissary to me, a labor boss who we were both close to as Democrats. And he said, Barack is interested in Valerie Jarrett as the senator. He called me last night. He asked me to come and talk to you because he wants to make a deal. And he wants to know what you want. And Obama, what he was doing was a political thing. It wasn't a criminal thing. And so we started talking about that. They criminalized it against me. And I went to the big house for 8 years, and Obama went to the White House for 8 years. And, Roger, life is unfair. On the other hand, I think God has a plan. And who'd have thought Donald Trump would be the one to rescue me because he saw how corrupt that was. And that the same people, a lot of them, that did to me a Democrat governor at the state level, at that level, would go to the higher level and do to President Trump what they've been doing with weaponized prosecutions on non-criminal things. So, what's greatly interesting to me is how things are shaking out. And today is just another element of all of that. I think it's a continuation of that story. And the Democratic Party today is probably the biggest hypocrites in American political history, Roger. When you think about them running to quote unquote save democracy, yet at the same time, they dump the voters' choice. The 15 million voters voted for Obama in the primaries and the backroom political bosses. Classic old-time Chicago Democratic political boss politics being played by Obama himself. He learned his lessons well in Chicago politics because he and I both came out of it. I've known him since 1995. And from the back room, he orchestrates the pressure to make Biden step aside and thwart the will of those voters. And it's a very interesting dynamic today. These Democrats are the biggest hypocrites in American political history because they're not about saving democracy. They're destroying democracy. This and the weaponization of the Justice Department for political purposes. Those are the big challenges that our country faces. And it's the Democrats led by Obama and Pelosi, these modern-day political bosses working in the back rooms who are doing this to us.
The thing I think that impresses me so much, Governor, having spent time with you, gotten to know you, is that after 8 years, again, due to the healing power of Jesus Christ, you have no bitterness. You have no bitterness whatsoever. As Richard Nixon said, never look backwards, always look forward. You are a victim. Your punishment was outrageous, particularly since I don't think you did anything wrong. You were convicted of engaging in politics. And that's it. It's a pity that it has to be said, but it does, because we know that there'll be some Weisenheimers on social media saying, "Oh, Roger Stone and Rod Blagojevich, if you're indicted, you're invited." But that's not a requirement here on the Roger Stone Show. I have enormous respect for the way that you have never lost your dignity, never drowned in self-pity. You are, as Richard Nixon would say, you are truly a man. And I've told you this directly to your face, and I'll say it again. I think you are one of the most skilled political communicators I've ever met. And anybody who wants to bother to look at your record as governor, you never raised taxes on the people of Illinois.
Oh, thank you for saying all of those things, Roger. You're right when you mentioned faith. Was faith, hope, and love? That's the first letters of Corinthians, chapter 13, written by St. Paul. That's what got me through it. Faith in God, hope, always hope, and love for my little girls and my wife. And the knowledge that I know I was right, and that if I gave in to these people, I would have been basically betraying the people who elected me. In fact, I would have betrayed the rule of law and the Constitution because I didn't do a darn thing wrong. And these weaponized prosecutors should not be allowed to get away with what they're doing to our democracy. It's among the reasons why I have such great admiration for President Trump. And I feel a connection to him. I don't really know him that well, but I know what they're doing to him is because they did it to me. And I see how strong he is and how tough he is and how he is willing literally to take a bullet for the American people because he knows how dirty and rotten and corrupt the system has become. And the sad reality is it's my political party that is doing more of this than the other party. And there's a new political realignment going on in America. And that convention we were at, Roger, that's a different Republican Party than there used to be. It's a party that's a lot more inclusive, which reflects the American people. And Trump is behind something that's very powerful. And I think at the heart of it, frankly, Roger, is I think the American people are sick and tired of being lied to and being told things they know aren't true, but they're expected to actually believe. So I think there's this tremendous movement that President Trump has been leading, and it's why the other side and the Democrat bosses and the elites and the Hollywood movie stars, Wall Street financiers and Silicon Valley billionaires, it's why they're so, and old school corporate country club Republicans like Liz Cheney, Romney, and those other people, why they're so resistant to Trump is because they don't want to see what they've got going changed because they've been controlling things in America for a long, long time. And the American people are finally rising up. They're sick and tired of it. They're beginning to see the truth. And I feel like, in my humble way, notwithstanding those long, hard years my family and I have had to endure, I feel in some strange way there's a role for me to play. Because one thing I'll say, Roger, and I know you feel the same way, we don't like what our government did to us. We know how dirty and rotten those people were. But those were bad people who abused their power. But we love our country. It wasn't our country that did it to us. In fact, you, I think, would agree with me. Our country is in deep trouble. And unless we elect Trump and change this and respect and revere and make the rule of law something that's sacred, not something that's a political weapon, unless we do that, we're going to lose our freedoms in America, and America will be no different than China or Russia.
Governor, I know you have not, this news is all coming very quickly, but you know the Democrat Party far better than I do. Does Kamala Harris have this locked up, or is this still, still an open question? I noticed that Barack Obama did not endorse her. Hillary Clinton, several think pieces floating her name this weekend. Those didn't just pop up automatically. Are we going to see a struggle? You know J.B. Pritzker perhaps better than most Americans. He is, let's just say when J.B. Pritzker sits around the House, he sits around the House. I mean, this guy is a heavyweight in many ways, but particularly financially. He could finance his own campaign for president. A Democrat who I spoke to during the break, a high-ranking Democrat, told me everybody is looking to see what he will do. That Shapiro, the governor of Tennessee, Governor Cooper, also maneuvering. What's going to happen here in the Democrat Party?
Well, Roger, I think it's going to be awfully hard for the Democrats, with all their rhetoric and all their positions and the priorities they claim they stand for, to ignore the African American, the black woman. And, they're supposedly the party of the feminist movement and they're the party, of the black community. They've enjoyed, we Democrats, including me, have enjoyed 95% of the black vote. I would argue that the Democrat Party purposefully keeps the black community in a place where it's struggling economically because they don't want to lose their votes, and so they do just a little for them, and then they point fingers at the other side. And the old Republican Party, the Romney-Cheney Republican Party, has done nothing, and so as a result of that, they can get away with it. But Trump now is appealing to black voters for a variety of reasons, so that change is going on. But if you're asking me what do I think will happen, I think it's going to be hard for them to dump Kamala Harris. I think the real race is going to be who's her running mate. And you had pointed out something that I think is really interesting, and that's that the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, considering the battleground states and the states that are in play, a ticket with Harris and Shapiro, from a political point of view, seems very sensible to me. J.B. Pritzker, who I know very well, who used to work for me, I appointed him to the Illinois Human Rights Commission. In fact, he's on the FBI tapes asking me to make him a senator. Incidentally, Roger, if I wanted to sell a Senate seat, that's the guy to sell it to. I could have made a cool $100 million on him. He spent something like $400 million making himself governor twice. But I don't see him as being in play. And the reason is the contrast between JB and JD couldn't be any starker. And there are a lot more American voters who associate their lives with JD Vance, and his humble origins and his upbringing, compared to the billionaire heir to the Hyatt Hotel fortune, J.B. Pritzker, who never worked a day in his life and has bought everything he's got, including the governorship twice. So I don't see him in play. I think if you're asking me for a prediction, I'm not very good at these predictions, but I believe it's going to be Kamala Harris and that governor from Pennsylvania. That makes a lot of sense to me. Keep an eye on the governor from Kentucky. They may want to, perhaps look to see if they can try to do what they can to. I don't know. I shouldn't be predicting who the vice presidential candidate is going to be, but I think it's going to be awfully hard for them to dump Kamala Harris. And Hillary Clinton, I mean, Trump beat her once. If she's the candidate, he'll beat her twice, and this time he'll beat her by a lot more.
Well, and as I said earlier, if Kamala Harris is so foolish as to take Hillary Clinton for vice president, well, Kamala Harris would need a food taster if she ever got elected. Folks, this is the Roger Stone Show. We're talking to former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, who's been very public about his support for President Donald Trump's reelection. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of Rod Blagojevich right here on the Roger Stone Show.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC. It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. We are breaking down this bombshell news that Joe Biden released a letter today announcing that he would not stand for re-election. He got 95% of the 7,000 delegates, but clearly Barack Obama has maneuvered effectively, lining up Nancy Pelosi as well as Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, behind the scenes, cutting off the Hollywood money, moving some of the major media outlets in the country to opine that Joe Biden should throw in the towel. I'm talking to former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. I saw that Senator J.D. Vance, the vice presidential candidate, put out a statement in the wake of this announcement by Biden, calling on Biden to step down as president, making an obvious, I think pretty simple argument that if you are not well enough to run for president, you're not well enough to do what everybody says is the single toughest job in the world, serving as president of the United States. Governor, your views on Senator Vance's call for this?
No, I very much agree with what he has to say. Think about what we're facing now. Joe Biden has just admitted that they've been lying to us the whole time, that he hasn't been fit to be president, and this didn't just happen overnight. All the suspicions, I think this goes way back to 2020, when as a matter of political expediency, the Democrat elite, the bosses, led by Obama, hid him in the basement when he ran for office. They got away with it because of COVID and the other things that happened. I think now, when you think about what's happened, he just said he can't run, he's not well, he's unfit to run for president. How could he possibly be president? And think about the magnitude of what this means. This man, who is unfit to be a candidate, has the power to push a button that can blow up the whole world. It's frightening. And in some respects, we're in a very dangerous time, just because who knows what that guy is capable of doing, considering the fact that he's in the position that he's in. So, no, I think for the sake of world security, I think Biden should not continue on as president, and that he should give up the reins of power.
The two things that I candidly worry about, to be totally honest, one is another attempt on President Donald Trump's life. There's so many emerging questions about the malfeasance by the Secret Service. The questions just keep getting deeper and deeper. We're in information overload, but it appears to me that the Secret Service is well aware of the presence of the man that they quickly identified as the shooter. I also have seen reports that a man named Maxwell Yerrick, who has a criminal record of assaulting Trump supporters. There are claims by some sources in Pennsylvania law enforcement that Yerrick is the killer rather than the man the government very quickly identified. It's kind of like they quickly identified Lee Harvey Oswald. I'm not claiming that that's correct. What I'm claiming is there are legitimate questions here. So, yes, I think we're in a dangerous time because the people who are in power are prepared to do anything necessary to keep power. And because of that, Donald Trump poses an existential threat to them. Unfortunately, that includes taking our country to a world war. This is a really simple matter. When we, the United States, signed the Budapest Memorandum with Secretary of State James A. Baker III signing for the United States, we agreed specifically if the Russians would allow the reunification of East and Germany, we in turn would agree not to push Ukraine into NATO, which really means not putting U.S. missiles on the ground, funded mostly by the United States, pointed at Russia. Putin has made it very clear that this is his line in the sand. Yet Antony Blinken, our Secretary of State, announced not long ago that in September, Ukraine would join NATO. These people will start a world war if they think that is what's necessary to stop Donald Trump's return to the White House. So, yes, I am deeply concerned. I am praying for the protection of Trump because the people who did this once are perfectly capable of trying it again. And I'm not sure we'll ever get to the bottom of what exactly happened that day, other than the horrific killing of Corey I'll get his name right, Compantari, the brave firefighter who shielded his wife and his daughter and took a bullet to the head. I can't even imagine anything so horrific.
Well, Roger, I think of that brave firefighter and what he stands for and doing what a father and a husband should do, and that is protect your family, and how he did it so heroically on that special day for their family to go and do something in small-town America that so rarely happens, to be able to see the most significant person in the United States, maybe the world, come into their area and give a speech at the rallies that are so well known and so well loved by Trump supporters, and that they go there on that special day and that happens. And then you think about him and you think about his family and their love of country and how they work every day and they go and do what they're supposed to do as Americans who made this country great, because it's the people that make America great, less so than the presidents or the governors. It's the people. And that they would be so misrepresented by these liars who are in charge. And they are, frankly, the party that I've been a member of all of my political life. They're liars and they're hypocrites and they're manipulators and they're control freaks. And the existential threat to democracy is not Donald Trump. The existential threat to their power and control is Donald Trump. And that's why they're so determined to destroy him any way they can. And when you raise questions about whether or not that attempted assassination was more than just some crazy 20-year-old kid on a rooftop, those are reasonable questions. I would imagine that if you're a Secret Service agent, you're in Secret Service school. The first class you take is Secret Service 101. Learn what happened to Kennedy in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. Look at the rooftops. And the fact that
all right, Governor, I got to cut you off there. We're out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Roger Stone Show. And folks, stay tuned for my good friend Joe Piscopo. Will be right along with Sundays with Sinatra.